Hello, I'm Angela. I've just managed to escape the most toxic situation I've ever been in. I'm still dealing with all the emotions, so please excuse me if this story gets a bit long. My story starts with meeting my then husband, Harry. We met in college and started dating quickly because he was one of the most handsome guys on campus, and I was also considered attractive. We dated for a long time. Harry proposed to me right after we graduated, and I happily said yes. However, we both knew we needed to wait a bit longer before getting married because we were focused on our careers and wanted to be in a good place before taking that big step. Harry asked me to move in with his family so he could work better and I could get to know them. I agreed because it made sense and would save me money on housing. I worked really hard at that time because I wanted to have a luxurious wedding with all our family around us. Meanwhile, Harry was working at his father's firm. He came from a big and influential family and was very rich, so my dream of a big wedding wasn't unrealistic. We focused on our careers for about 4 years before I got pregnant. It wasn't planned, and I was shocked because we were careful. I was so determined not to believe it that I went to the doctor, who confirmed I was already 3 months along. That evening, I had to tell Harry the news. So, I have some news. I began. Is it good or bad? He asked. I don't know. It depends on how you take it. You're scaring me. What is it? I haven't gotten my period for the last 3 months. At first, I thought it was just the birth control, but then something told me to take a pregnancy test. Oh no. Are you saying, yes, I'm pregnant? Oh my God. Are you sure? Could the tests be wrong? I thought the same thing, so I went to the doctor. They confirmed it. Wow, I didn't expect this. We have so much to do. This is wonderful. Really, I didn't know how you'd take it. We've been so focused on our careers, and a baby would be a big change. I assure you, it's very good news. First things first, we need to get married. So we immediately started planning our big, lavish wedding. Within the next 2 months, everything was set. We said our vows and became husband and wife. Harry was very kind and gentle with me. When I was pregnant and during the wedding planning, Harry was always by my side, making sure I was comfortable and having a good time. However, about 2.5 months after we got married, Harry's behavior started to change. He stopped looking after me and stopped checking in on me. I tried talking to him multiple times, but he wouldn't tell me what was wrong. When I gave birth to our beautiful daughter, Harry wasn't there, and that added to my pain. Thankfully, my mother-in-law, Lucy, was with me. I was in the hospital for about a month due to complications after birth, including a mini stroke and significant blood loss. Harry never visited me, and I was deeply hurt. What kind of husband leaves their wife to suffer like that? A few weeks after I gave birth, Lucy told me that Harry wanted to perform a DNA test on P to see if she was really his child. He thought it was suspicious that I got pregnant suddenly. Hearing this made me feel even worse because I had never given him any reason to doubt my faithfulness. He conducted the test anyway, and it confirmed that P was his child. But by then, Harry had checked out of being a father and husband for so long that he found it more comfortable to stay distant. When I returned home, I tried to talk to him about it, but he told me he wanted nothing to do with either P or me. He and I stayed in this painful situation for the next 7 years. Harry had made me quit my job when I was pregnant, so I had no savings to fall back on. Harry was doing well at his father's business, so I knew he could provide for us. I stayed in the house because I wanted to be with P without facing any issues. Harry barely looked at P and would complain if I raised any issues about household work. I quickly learned that Harry was not the sweet-tempered man I had known before. The only reason I was still living there was because I was taking care of his parents, a job he didn't want to do. His parents, Patrick and Lucy, adored Harry and believed he could do no wrong. Even when they saw how he was treating P and me, they didn't care. They fully believed that I was the reason Harry was ignoring his duties, thinking I had done something to deserve it. At first, I was really hurt by this, but I learned to let go. Patrick and Lucy had many health issues. Patrick was diabetic, and Lucy was on heavy medication for her heart issues. They needed a lot of care and attention, so I took over as their primary caregiver. Harry and his brother Mike were always busy with work, so they couldn't look after their parents. I suggested hiring someone to help, but Harry refused. Ever since Harry took over the household expenses, he made everyone's lives miserable. He wouldn't spend a cent unless it was absolutely necessary. We ate a lot of canned and microwave foods, and I started taking P out to salad houses just so she could get some nutritious food. One time, P got very sick with a high fever that wouldn't go down. I began to panic when she showed no signs of improvement and begged Harry to take her to the hospital. Pet is sick. We need to take her to the hospital, I pleaded. It's just a fever. Just put a wet cloth on her head and call it a day, Harry replied. Harry, she's been sick for a week and hasn't improved. She's barely eating, and I know something is really wrong. Just let her heal on her own. If you pamper her, her body won't learn how to fight off sickness by itself. She's your daughter, Harry. Don't you have even the slightest bit of sympathy? Not really. Does my panicking and crying at least make you feel a little bad? I'm literally just begging you to give me some money to take her to the hospital. Do you even know how expensive hospitals are? That's right, you don't. You don't earn a cent and you're just freeloading off of us. And you have the nerve to ask me for money to fund your expenses. And whose fault is it that I'm not working? You forced me to quit after I gave birth. The least you can do is take some responsibility. After P was born, I realized how much I detest domestic living and wanted to rid myself of you too. But you stuck to me like glue and refused to leave. If it were up to me, I would have thrown you out a long time ago. Forget it. I don't even know why I bother with you. I walked away from him with tears in my eyes, heading towards P's room. I bumped into Mike, and he looked worried when he saw me crying. I quickly explained my situation to him, and he looked alarmed. He asked me to grab Petal and meet him in his car. I did just that, and as we were leaving, Harry ran after us, yelling about disobeying him and sabotaging our family expenses. Mike told him to stop being a heartless jerk and let the child get the treatment she needed. Before Harry could reply, Mike drove away. My heart was pounding with fear for Petal. If Mike hadn't helped me, I would have asked a friend to lend me money, and I would have had to pay them back eventually. I was really grateful to Mike, who, unlike his brother, actually had a heart. When we got Petal into the ER, they conducted a lot of tests and found that she had a severe case of hyperpyrexia, which is just a fancy way of saying a really high fever caused by another issue. Since Petal was a child, her larger arteries were inflamed, making the fever even worse. She had to stay in the hospital for a few days so they could monitor her and bring her temperature down. Every one of those days, Harry called to tell me how selfish I was for taking Petal to the hospital after he had told me not to. The first day, I explained the situation, but he didn't care. After that, I stopped listening to his calls. Mike, on the other hand, was a godsend. He visited the hospital every day and stayed with Petal for a few hours so I could take a shower and eat a proper meal. He also brought many of Petal's toys, which made her really happy. Seeing her smile and laugh after days of suffering made me feel better about our situation. After Petal was discharged, Mike began making an effort to improve our lives. Before, he had always minded his own business, figuring we were Harry's responsibility. He treated us with respect but never checked to see how we were living. I remember when he took Petal and me to the park one day. We watched Petal play while we ate ice cream. He seemed lost in thought and a little sad, so I asked him what was wrong. Why do you look so lost in thought? Oh, it's nothing. Come on, you helped me out when I needed it most. Let me be a shoulder to lean on for you. Well, I was just wondering how my brother could possibly let the both of you go so easily. Yeah, it was hard for me to grapple with too. In fact, I still struggle with it. There have been so many moments when I just look at him and expect him to go back to being who he was when we first met. It takes a special kind of heartlessness to abandon your own child when she still lives in your house. I just learned to be grateful he hasn't kicked us out. Who would hire someone who hasn't worked for the last 7 years? I haven't even kept up with all the changes in my field. Why don't you try to find a job, even if it isn't in your field? Earning some money is better than earning none. You have no idea how badly I want to earn my own way, but I don't have time to work. What do you mean? You could work during the hours P is in school, and if needed, I can help you enroll her in daycare after school. You really are an angel, aren't you? While I appreciate the offer, I can't take you up on it. Even if I'm not taking care of Petal, I'm taking care of your parents. Between that and cooking everyone's meals and cleaning the house, I have no time for anything else. Oh man, I completely forgot about everything else you've been doing for us. I'm so sorry I've turned a blind eye for so long. I promise I'll help you out and make your days easier. I'll even help set you up with a job. I was surprised by how apologetic Mike was. In those months, I had learned to live as if I were invisible, so getting recognized for all my work made me really happy. After that, Mike began helping a lot. He did household chores and helped his parents whenever he was free, allowing them to spend more time as a family. Mike also got me a desk job at one of his friends' companies. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was more than enough for me to save up and move out in a few months. Harry was not happy that Mike was helping me out. Mike was spending family money on people who didn't deserve it. The first time this happened, Mike lost it to Harry. They got into a heated argument that almost turned physical, but I stepped in to stop it. After a while, Mike learned to ignore Harry's repeated comments. And if I was ever alone with Harry, he wouldn't unleash his anger on me, so I made sure to stay out of his way. I needed time to save up enough money for a deposit on an apartment. One day, while walking past Harry's room on my way to visit Patrick and Lucy, I heard Harry yelling. Curiosity got the better of me, and I peeked through the crack in the door. I watched Harry punch his pillow in frustration, then sit still on his bed, looking like he was going insane. Suddenly, he jumped up, fumbled around in his pockets, and pulled out his phone. He started talking about how Mike's team was pulling in most of the revenue and how this team wanted to work with Mike. He complained about the decline in work ethic in the office because of Mike. Both of them managed their own teams differently. Harry was authoritarian and strict, overworking his team, while Mike was more relaxed, treating his team with respect and listening to them. It was clear why Mike's team was more productive, but Harry hated him for it. He also complained about how Mike was changing things in the house and how he was beyond angry with him. Harry began to tell the person on the phone about his plan to sabotage Mike and everyone else living in the house because none of us respected him. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Although I decided to chalk his words up to anger, I figured he wouldn't have the time or capacity to follow through. I made sure to keep an eye on him over the next week. Then one day, Harry brought one of his friends over. They sat in his room, discussing Harry's plan to sabotage Mike. Look, Caleb, I'm just tired of Mike and his shenanigans. I get that. So, what are you going to do about it? Well, no, but all I know is that the man gets on my nerves. Suddenly, he's become a good guy, looking after my loser wife and child and taking care of our parents. Do you think he's doing this for some gain? Oh yeah, of course. Everything about him works for a benefit that he can earn. He probably wants all of my parents' estate as his inheritance. definitely how it looks. Maybe you should do something soon. You can't let this go on longer. You are your parents' favorite, aren't you? Absolutely, and you're right. I need to keep it that way. What do you think I should do? Why don't you have your parents sign the house over to you, and then you can throw them all out? I like that. But what about Mike? Well, your dad's still the CEO, and he has the power to transfer the company under your name too. That is so true, Caleb. You're a genius. I was alarmed by what I was hearing. I quickly left after they switched topics, but I was sure Harry saw me. He must have tried to cover his bases before tricking his parents into signing everything over to him. The next day, I came home from work to see everyone sitting at the dinner table with grim looks on their faces. I tried to ask what was going on, but nobody replied. I felt awkward, but had to take care of Petal, so I let it go. That night, I thought about whether I should tell them what I overheard. Even though Patrick and Lucy were mean to me, they took great care of Petal when I needed it, and Mike was amazing. The next day, I came back from work, prepared to talk to Patrick, Lucy, and Mike about my plan. My heart raced as I walked into the living room to talk. Thankfully, Harry was still out, and I knew I had a little while before he came back home. "Why did you call us here?" Patrick asked. "I just wanted to tell you about something I found out the other day." "Hurry up with it," Lucy said. "I happened to overhear Harry talking to someone on the phone the other day. He made plans to take revenge on Mike and, in turn, on both of you." "Get out," Patrick snapped. I couldn't believe my ears. Patrick's accusation left me speechless. Harry had already poisoned their minds, convincing them that I would fabricate some story to turn them against him. "Excuse me? You heard what he said." Patrick snapped. "I'm sorry, but why?" "Don't understand," I replied, my voice trembling. "Harry told us about how you were going to come and tell us some outlandish thing just so we could start hating him and transfer all our assets to you and Petal." "What? I would never." "Oh, shut up. Lord knows the only reason we ever put up with you was because Petal needed a mother. Now she's old enough, and you've done enough. Get out of our house and our lives," Lucy interjected harshly. "I have no place to go. I'm telling you, Harry is lying." "You have some nerve to say that. We made sure that Harry got all our assets. You will get nothing. Lie all you want, you won't get a cent from us. And since you have no place to go, I'm sure CPS would not like that. You can't be threatening me with my daughter," I said, my voice breaking. "You either leave peacefully, or we kick you out and have Petal's custody given to us," Patrick threatened. "Fine, I'll leave. Just please take good care of my little girl." I packed my things and tearfully kissed Petal goodbye. She cried a lot, and it only made my heart break even more. But this was the best thing I could do for her. I reached out to my best friend, whom I hadn't contacted in years. Thankfully, she was more than willing to help me out, opening her house to me. She gave me her shoulder to cry on and listen to me. We caught up on our lives, and I even managed to laugh occasionally. The mental and emotional strain was too much, and I fell asleep easily. The next day, I took a day off from work to recover and plan my next move. I knew I needed to have Petal by my side, but I didn't need to think too much. Around noon, I got a frantic call from Patrick. After calming him down, he explained that Harry had kicked all of them out of the house and even took away Mike's job, leaving them with little money to rely on. He begged me for help, but I was done. I had no sympathy for them. I contacted CPS and informed them of the situation. It wasn't long until I got Petal back with me. Despite not having solid proof of residence, I at least had a roof over my head, unlike Patrick and Lucy. My friend also testified that I was living with her until I could get back on my feet. I got numerous calls from Mike and his parents, calling me all sorts of names for taking Petal away instead of helping them. But I had tried to warn them, and they chose to make me suffer in the worst way possible. I'm always going to be grateful for how much they helped me in the past, but they crossed a big line. Right now, I have full custody of Petal, and I'm in the process of getting a divorce from Harry. My best friend helped me find a good job, and life is finally beginning to look up.